We start out, I'm already laughing at myself. Almost said good morning. It is not morning, but it might be if you're watching the replay. Welcome to all the replay folk. We get a lot of people watching replays. And so good morning, good afternoon, bonsoir, whatever it might be. ¿Qué pasa? What's going on? What's happening in your world? Tell me everything. So we are diving in today to talk about your outline. Your outline. Do you have your outline? Your outline of your screenplay. As a writer, as a reader. As readers, we help writers create outlines sometimes. If we're being a coach or a consultant, readers fill all kinds of roles. Sometimes they write just coverage straight ahead, like a book report. Sometimes they're actually coaching a writer into something, into finishing their screenplay. They're so committed to the story. They're so committed to the screenplay. They're so committed to the writer. They're so committed to the producer. It is a job of service being a reader. So it's very important to understand an outline and what that all means and how it all works. And it's really important to understand it's really important to understand the structure and the rules of a screenplay and all of that, so that you can break them. So it doesn't mean, when I talk about rules, it doesn't mean that it all has to be this way. It just means that you need to know as a reader, and really as a writer as well, what the rules are, so that you know what you got yourself into, what you're breaking, the choices that you're making, so you can be very intentional about writing. And so we have a lot of people in our programs that write screenplays. We have a lot of people that complain about not being able to finish their screenplay. So we actually have a course called Finish to help people do that. But it's like, this is a common theme. And so we started to realize, well, maybe we should give you some tools to make that a little bit easier. And as always, whenever I talk about writing, I want to talk about life as well. So we talk about writing your outline. We talk about writing your screenplay. And we're constantly talking about writing your life as well, making it mirror. And this is a really great topic and a really great example of exactly how you can do that. So I have a handout for you today. If you go to this URL that's on there, hollywoodgatekeepers.com/free look, you can get the handout there. If you have any questions, feel free to just throw them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. But I'm also going to share my screen so that we can go through it. Hey, Doug. So, sharing screen was canceled. No, it wasn't. Maybe it was. Maybe I can't. Oh. Okay, so it's not going to let me share my screen today. Don't know why. Every time I click on share, it says canceled. Make sure you click. Okay. Let's try that again. Let's try it once more. Or not. That won't even let me click on share. Okay, so I'll just tell you about it. You can download it. So if you go to hollywoodgatekeepers.net/free look, right at the top of the page, it'll say this week's handout. I added that to it to make it really easy every week, so you knew, what's happening. This is the video that's going to go there, so you'll see last week's video still. But that's interesting as well. And then when you scroll down the page, you'll see all of our free stuff. If you click on, there's different topics of trainings. You can click on any of those. It'll take you to just a lot of different free trainings that we have on all kinds of topics. So today we're going to be talking about creating an outline, and how can you create an outline for your screenplay and for your life. Hey, Sean, there's no late. You can come and go. You're a grown adult. We're here because people watch this on the replay. I just go. I dive in. Even if I'm all alone, I dive in because I know a lot of people watch the replay, so no skin off my whatever. So if you are writing your outline and you're writing your screenplay, you're writing your outline for your screenplay and you're writing your outline for your life, they can go hand in hand. And so when you click on hollywoodgatekeepers.com/free look, you can see this week's handout and click on that, and you will see there is an outline. I'll keep sharing every once in a while to see if maybe it, dare I refresh? I'm not sure why the functionality isn't working for me to share my screen. So when you look at the outline of your screenplay, so screenplays typically run in a 3-act structure. That's basically every story is a 3-act structure. Now, again, I'm always going to throw in there, I'm telling you kind of the general normal things, and then people mess with that all the time. But when you look at the 3-act structure, so what we did was we created an outline for you. So if you're writing a screenplay or you're a reader helping a writer, you can map out what's going to happen in Act 1, what's going to happen in Act 2, and what's going to happen in Act 3. And then we started out this outline. We actually start out with you figuring out your log line, who is your protagonist, who is your villain, who is your sidekick, who is the supporting characters, so that you can kind of have an idea of the people involved. And then when you look at your life, we have a thing called the look method, which means you actually look at how you're living your life, so that if you do want to do something different, if you want to make changes, you can look at the things that you're doing and you can shift and grow and morph and change and do whatever you need to do to get to the place that you want to get. And so as you look at your log line, as you look at your protagonist, as you look at your villains, as you look at your sidekicks, the same holds true in your life. What's the log line? What is it that you want to make happen? So if you look at, over the next year, 6 months, a month, a week, a day, 5 minutes, whatever it might be, what is it that you want to happen? That's your log line. So this is the log line of your life. That should be a whole nother topic, the log line of your life. So you can really figure that out. What is the log line that you want to be? Meaning, what is the goal that you have? And then when you're writing, your screenplay, you're writing, who is your protagonist? What are they like? Well, who are you as your protagonist? Who do you have to become in order to do the thing that it is that you want to do? Whether it's you want a relationship to shift, you have a new job, you want to start a new career, you're becoming a reader, you want to produce a movie, you want to finish your screenplay. What is that thing? And who do you have to be to accomplish that? Like, what kind of goal are you setting and what kind of protagonist are you choosing to be? So it is a choice for us to really look method, at how we live our daily life, look at where it is we want to be and see where is the gap and how do we fill that gap with what. So then you look at the villain, right? In your outline, we're going to have you play around with who your villain might be. Well, who might be stopping you? Are there people in your world? I'm really hoping there's not toxic, awful people that are really holding you back and holding you down. Hopefully it's just more of a matter of shifting, changing, working together, whatever it might be. Things are changing and there's just so much tension right now that sometimes that can create some drama and whatever. So they're not necessarily, I don't want you to villainize people, unless you have someone in your life who is really toxic, holding you back, really making your life difficult. So then it's about, you definitely put you in a hero role and then have you figure out what are the steps you need to take to change that relationship, figure out a way to make it so that you can live the life that you choose. So then when you think about the sidekick, you're going to write who are your supporting characters or sidekicks. Your sidekick in your screenplay, as you coach someone or write your screenplay, their sole purpose as a sidekick is not to have their own story that's so fantastic. That's where people tend to live. The sidekick's purpose, the supporting character's purpose, is to unfold the protagonist, is to give you insight into the protagonist. We learn things about the protagonist from the supporting characters. Often, supporting characters are so fun and cool and funny that they don't even have anything to do, and then sometimes it's dueling plots as opposed to every single scene of that sidekick is only there to tell us something to move the story forward about the protagonist. If it can be about their relationship, but we learn something about the protagonist with that sidekick. If you're having, even in series television where sidekicks can, because there's just more leeway, they can create subplots about the sidekicks, but they're still in relation to what's going on with that main character. That main character's presence is always there in some fashion. So in your life, who are your sidekicks? We're your sidekick. I would love to be your sidekick. Can I be your sidekick? Because we want to be that person that's what we're doing, is whatever we're doing here is for you, is constantly coming back to creating something for you. Now we have our own dramas and whatever going on in our own worlds, but we're coming back around to what can we do together? How can we create this together? We created a thing called Homeroom. We had a lot of new people in Homeroom today. It was awesome. So in Homeroom, we get together every single morning and we provide just a place where you can come together with a group of people for 20 minutes. It's very low key. We kind of screw around a little bit. We say hello. We say, what are we going to work on in the chat? We work together quietly for 15 minutes. We play a goofy song. We do a dance break. We just try to start our day because there's so much tension. We want a little ray of sunshine to start your day. Sometimes it gets a little bit heavy and we even breathe together, stretch, or whatever the feeling of the group is. trying to lift that up. And the more people you bring together in that energy of trying to lift things up, the easier it is to lift and the easier it is to move that mountain. So that's why we're doing homeroom every single day. So you can get both this handout and information about homeroom by going to HollywoodGatekeepers.com/free look. And that will show you all of our programs, as well as today's handout. You can click on right at the top of the page. And then the very first thing is homeroom. So you can get in there and get into homeroom and join us. So then as you're moving through your outline, right, you've got your protagonist and your villain, you figured all that out. Now you're going to figure out kind of what is your main storyline. So kind of what's going to happen. What's your overall thing? What's kind of, you got your log line, you know, kind of a general, like, well, sometimes a very specific log line, just like you have a goal, but what is the bigger picture of that? So what is kind of some of the nuances of that story? Still vague, still like, well, not vague, but still short is what I mean. Like you're not writing a whole, you know, novel, you're just writing the basics of it. And so it's like a 30,000 foot view of it. And so what are the things that need to happen for you to get your goal going? What, do you need to go through a course? Do you need to go like, what do you need to do in your life to make this thing happen? Awesome, Daryl. I'm glad it's resonating with you. And then what are your subplots, right? So when you're doing your screenplay, you've got usually at least 2 subplots. What are they? And again, those subplots, what do? Come back to that protagonist to help them out. What are the subplots you got going on in your life? So you want to finish your screenplay. You have a subplot of, but I have a day job from 9 to 5, which is as an antagonistic subplot, right? You have a subplot that's like, I also want to get healthy. Like that might be part of it, because if you get healthy, that absolutely supports your main thing. You can't do anything if you don't feel good. So getting healthy so that you feel good, you feel strong, you feel ready is going to make that ultimate story work a little bit better. Maybe your subplot is a relationship that's supporting or not supporting. Maybe your subplot is you're going to join homeroom. So that's a subplot. So what are the subplots in your goal that can help that goal be achieved? Just like what are the subplots in your screenplay that are going to help that screenplay, that story get told? And then we branch into like outlining things, act by act. So you can look at, for instance, and I gave you an example in your outline, your overall story is that you want to write, you want to write your screenplay. A subplot might be defining your writing space. Where are you writing every day? Do you have a spot that you go to? Because the decision of, well, maybe I'll go here, maybe I'll go to the library. Well, so you don't have as many places to go, which is kind of a good thing in a way. So it's like, but where, have you set up a space so you can just slide into it and start working every day? That makes a big difference. Just that decision of where to work can sometimes just like really throw you. It's these little things. These are the little things that set us off of our game, where we suddenly like, oh, well, maybe I'll do it. And then suddenly we're cleaning out, we're cleaning out the spare bedroom or whatever. Suddenly we've got a whole new project going that started with, I'm going to write my screenplay in here today. And then tomorrow, well, I don't really want that space. I'm going to go over here and clean out the kitchen counter, like whatever it might be. So it's like defining that writing space could be a subplot. And then what is the support that you need? Perhaps homeroom. So then when you get into outlining your screenplay and you dive into Act 1, that certain things happen in Act 1, right? You want to grab people. You want that opening that really grabs people. You want to introduce your protagonist, right? You want to introduce that character and who are they and what is their world. Then you have your inciting incident where that protagonist makes a huge shift. You introduce the subplot, one of the subplots, maybe both, maybe just one. Kind of depends on what you want to do. And you have that big inciting incident where everything shifts, and then it morphs into Act 2. And that is a huge transition from Act 1 to Act 2. Act 2 is in The Wizard of Oz. She steps into Oz. It's color coded. It's like a big world changes from Act 1 to Act 2. So in your life, when you map that out for you, what is that first opening scene? What is that thing that's like, boom, today I'm going to make this decision. It doesn't even have to be today I'm going to make $1 million. It can just be today I'm going to decide to make $1 million. But it is the shift of like, I am starting. This story is starting right now, today, with something. I don't know what it is for you. I don't know if it's just that decision, if it's a journal entry. It doesn't have to be some big thing, but it has to be a committed thing. It's big on the inside. It doesn't necessarily have to manifest in some big gigantic shift, but it should manifest in some internal shift of like, okay, boom. So what is that going to be for you? So when we open our screenplay, we want those opening things to really grab us in the same way we want that goal, vision, whatever it might be, to really grab you, to move you forward, to make you want to tell this story on both sides, right? You want to tell that story, you want to tell that story. So how can we drive that forward? And then what habits will you put in place? We're going to be introducing that protagonist, right? Creating their world. What is the world you're going to create for yourself as you are your own protagonist? What are some habits you can put in place that will help you create the person that you want to be to make the change that you want to make? Change doesn't, in my opinion, change is not about so much a behavioral thing in terms of I'm going to will myself to sit down every day. It's more about I'm a writer. It's shifting that identity, right? If you're a writer, what do? You sit down and you write. Rather than being, I'm going to force myself to sit down and write so that I can be a writer. Be the writer. And once you identify yourself and say, I am a writer, suddenly sitting down to write makes perfect sense because you're not fighting it. It's becoming who you are. So how can you develop more things? I am someone who focuses, these are my values. I focus on my health. What does that mean? That means I need to exercise every day. If that's the value that I want to create in my life, then the habit follows. Rather than, I'm going to exercise, rather than it being this struggle of will, instead, it's a shift of identity. And that makes a huge shift. Same with your protagonist. When you're writing a screenplay and things are getting in their way, what's happening, what makes a story really good is when the protagonist has an identity shift, not just a I won, you lose shift. They sacrifice and they lose something to gain something. The same will be true. As much as you don't like maybe some of the habits you have now and you want to shift them, don't underestimate their power. And give it a little love, whatever you have been doing, because when you let that go, you will feel a sense of loss. Just like, because it's an identity shift. When things happen in our world, we become a parent, when we get married, when we get divorced, when we go through these big things in our lives, we let go of a former identity. And even if the thing is good, even if you start a new job, you have to let go of, oh, now I can't do this thing. Even when you get married, you let go of being a single person. And there were things that were great about being a single person. So don't minimize and don't make it seem like, don't make your partner feel guilty if they mourn for their single life. Doesn't mean they don't love you. It means they've made an identity shift because that's what they want. They're sacrificing that because this is better. They love you. They want to be with you. This is better. I'm still might have some sadness over this going away. Same as being a parent. I don't think we give enough credence to parents of having to let go of not being a parent. Like, it's like there, as much as it's amazing and joyful, there is some loss, change, grief, morphing of letting go of your more free, the freedom that you had in your life that you don't have as a parent. It is replaced with incredible things. Doesn't mean those incredible things when you were single weren't or didn't have children weren't valid. So I think we have a tendency to be like, no, this is great. And if you think that, there's something wrong with you. Elizabeth Gilbert has a really good, I don't know if it's a book or a blog thing about the wrong question, about feeling like it's wrong to feel certain ways. And that's one of them. It's like, when we're with a loved one and they pass away and we feel relieved, and then we feel guilty that we're relieved, but we're relieved because perhaps they were suffering. So it's like these more identifying these things and accepting them with love and trust and joy, and knowing, as painful as some of this stuff might be, it's part of life. And you can move into a new identity shift rather than battling with the daily habit. So that's what we want to work towards. So as you build your protagonist becomes stronger and stronger and stronger the more obstacles we put in their way, right? They're building that muscle, they're overcoming there. And we love that. An audience loves that. Why? Because we're over here clawing our way through whatever it is that we're working on, not realizing, beating ourselves up often, not realizing that we are building that same muscle. Just like when you work out, you tear your muscle to make it stronger. The same is true emotionally. Sometimes you break down and then you build. Like, it's just a constant thing, and they mirror each other in such a really, really great way. So what is your first turning point when you get into Act 2 in your screenplay? What is your turning point? When will you know that you're on your path? Is it you're in the screen reader course and you finished it? What is your turning point into the new thing that you want to do? Identify it ahead of time so that you know what you're working towards. And then it makes it, in both cases, when you know where you're headed, you know what you're working toward, it makes it so much easier because you have it mapped out. You can just go, okay, now I'm going to go here. Okay, now I'm going to go here. And all the drama of making those choices can then be things you put on the page, for one, instead of in your life over here. It gets on the page. Any drama you have over your next step, when you map it out, You map it out. There's not as much drama. You take that drama, you put it over here on the page and make your screenplay better. So they really go like hand in hand, right, Heather? Totally. You miss the freedom before having a child. Wouldn't change it for anything, right? And then you see that adorable smile and you're like melted and everything as well. And it's still like, yeah, it's a beautiful time. And that's the phases of life. So then as you get into Act 2, then you have your midpoint in Act 2. And that's kind of like the middle of the screenplay when everything shifts and your character is like, okay, I have to make this choice. I have to let go of this thing. Same kind of thing that we're talking about. What is the midpoint in this journey of this goal that you have? When will you know when you're making a shift into the new person that you want to be? Is it a financial goal? Is it a tangible goal? My screenplay is done. My screenplay is halfway done. Are you going like literally, like when I reach midpoint here, I'm reaching midpoint here? Like what's it going to be? So you can really identify that. You might be introducing another subplot in your Act 2. Maybe you introduced them both in Act 1. Sometimes subplots can come in a little bit later. What is another thing that you might put in place? Then you have fork in the road where your character needs to make a decision, a very important stakes are high decision about what they're going to do next. And then you have, typically in a screenplay, you have what some people refer to as all is lost. Some people refer to as the point of no return. And that's the moment when the protagonist decides we're going to go into battle, even if we're going to lose, where the couple breaks up and they're never going to see each other again, where it's like, all is lost. I lose. It's not going to happen. And then it goes into usually some sort of chase, some sort of huge build into that climatic moment in Act 3. So it is that moment in romantic comedies. Often it's the chase to the airport or the run after it's, I need to tell you I love you before you go away. That is in a romantic comedy, which are very, probably the most formulaic genre is romantic comedy in terms of this type of formula. So when you look at your life, you're putting a new habit in place is another subplot. What is the deadline in your midpoint? Where will you know when you're at your midpoint of towards your goal? What are you doing to maintain the habits and the subplots that you've put in place? What's holding you back? What is the thing that when you get to, like, what do you think the obstacle might be that will make you feel that all is lost moment? That thing of where you have to, I'm all in, where you have to double down, where you have to like go forward. What might that thing be? Identifying that ahead of time can really help you face it when it comes. And it might end up being moving or breaking up with a relationship or starting a relationship, or there's so many things that might be, or really taking a handle on your health, or really getting a handle on your finances, or whatever it might be. There will come a time when you have to push through to get to whatever the next level is. And then you've got your Act 3 resolution, where you're resolving what happens in your main story and your subplot, you're resolving everything and coming up with that. And what does that look like? When will you know if your goal is your screenplay being done? When is it done? That is such a great question that people don't really think about. Is it after 3 rewrites, 4 rewrites? Is it that when you can't stomach looking at it anymore? What is your goal? When someone reads it and you get a coverage that says it's a go, like, what is the thing? What will be the thing that makes you able to then start the cycle again and start on whatever the next project? What is your deadline date? What will you do next? And the most important thing of all of this is what will you do to celebrate that you've come to this conclusion? So when you finish your screenplay, you need to have some kind of celebration. You need to do something. Whenever we open enrollment, I always do something, some little thing when enrollment closes, whether it's just an added lunch or whatever, just something like, whew, because that's a lot of work for us as a team when we're letting new students in. There's a lot of chaos and links and all kinds of stuff happening. And so we always celebrate a little bit, and we're so excited to have new students and stuff that we celebrate. So what is the thing you're going to do? Plan it ahead of time. It could be simple. It doesn't have to be some big grand thing, or it can be a big grand thing. I'm going to jump out of an airplane when my screenplay is done. I don't know. What floats your boat? What is the thing that's going to make you just really celebrate that moment? It could be just something really simple as I'm going to sleep Saturday. Like, it could be very simple. It could be very grand. Whatever you feel creates that moment of satisfaction. Job well done. Let's move on. And then what do? Right back to the top again, right? Because now you'll be in a different space. Either that screenplay will be done, or you've created the job that you want, or whatever. But you're going to have a whole new thing to learn now. And writing the second screenplay, if that's what it is much easier usually than writing the first, unless you bite off something new, which most people do. They either bring in a partner, They decide they're going to write a television series, because that's, I think, who we are as writers. That's who we are as human. We want to, there's just this innate ability and need to grow. Look at society. It's chaos in many ways right now. There's also so much growth happening. It is insane. So many people having to shift into new careers, new lives, new things. Like, it is like as hard. And again, we're letting go, and there's mourning, and there's arguments, and there's chaos, and rah, and there's like so much energy. But at the same time, there's rebirth, regrowth, new opportunities, so many cool things happening. So how can we, how can we regulate our anxiety? Because change creates anxiety. How can we regulate that? How can we breathe through it? Take that breath. Know it's going to be okay. Come into homeroom. Because in homeroom, that's what we're doing on a daily basis. Because on a daily basis, it's like pulling that energy and getting it as even as possible, so that we can create that outline of our life. We can create that outline of our screenplay, and we can get them both done in the way that we choose, love, celebrate, enjoy. That's our goal here in Screen Readers. That's our goal for you. We'll be back with more. We've already planned out all of our topics for the rest of this year. It's just like, we really want to come to a place where you have a safe space that you can explore all of this, that you can learn about writing your screenplay, that you can learn about creating your life. I'm a certified life coach. We have Doug in the chat. He helps with the chat to help remind you of what it is. It's very deliberate how we're doing this, so that we can give you as much support as possible. So come on in to HollywoodGatekeepers.net or .com, either one. Free look, /free look. You'll see right at the top, I'll be posting this video in there, and you can watch this if you're watching a replay. You can get the handout there. You can also get into homeroom there, and you can see all of the things that we have going on. We are so grateful and happy that you're here with us, and we can't wait till the next one. So we'll be back. I'll be in homeroom in the morning, and we'll be back next week with a new topic. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Thanks for coming.